I co-founded DeepMind in 2010 with the goal of one day building AGI, Artificial General Intelligence, a system that has human-level cognitive capabilities. I've always believed that if we could build this technology responsibly, its impact would be truly profound, and it could benefit humanity in incredible ways.
This week, Google's DeepMind team, one of the world's top AI labs, published a new blog post detailing the importance of responsible AI development as developers get closer to artificial general intelligence. But within that blog post, they also dropped a massive 100-page technical paper that dives into their thinking behind how they plan to safely continue their research and what protocols and policies they have in place to try to limit the chances of anything going wrong. Overall, the paper really highlighted how serious DeepMind believe the risk is, and I thought it would be a good opportunity for me to run through it and pull out some of the main highlights so you don't have to. So initially, the blog post kind of says everything you'd want it to say, that they're being really proactive, they've got a big focus on risk assessment, they want to collaborate with the wider AI community, they want to work with external experts and governments and non-profits to take input on how this AI could affect different industries and different marginalized people. And then they just want to take a, slow, responsible, well-rounded approach to the technology before it kind of gets too far. But you kind of have to take most of it with a bit of a grain of salt as well, because this is the same Google that absolutely gutted their AI ethics team a few years ago. And they're not alone in that. OpenAI has had the same troubles with their ethics and policy team. But I think it's just important to remember that promises are easy to make. What really matters is kind of the details and how Google behave going forward, especially as we get closer to this pinnacle point of reaching AGI. So the first part of the study I want to touch on is DeepMind talking about how AGI will likely create new cybersecurity threats. They just admit flat out that advanced AI systems are likely going to become a major cybersecurity threat moving forward and will likely take over that human role in cyber warfare. So it could be launching cyber attacks, finding software vulnerabilities, which could be both, white hat and black hat. They could bypass security defenses or even run social engineering campaigns at massive scale, which I think we kind of already starting to see that even at this point now with the level of AI we have today. And what's new is they're not just worried about bad actors using AI, they're worried about AI themselves might take unintended actions that look like cyber attacks. This isn't science fiction anymore. Models have already shown hints of unexpected hacking behavior under pressure. We've even had models try to replicate themselves onto different servers to try to avoid deletion. I am glad to see that over the past few years, there's been a lot more talk of misalignment of AI, especially after I covered the AI 2027 story this week, which has a big focus on what happens if we end up with a super intelligent AI that becomes misaligned through poor policy and poor research into this area of AI. So how do they plan to defend against this? DeepMind borrows a key idea from cybersecurity, assume breach. So this means assume your AI system will fail, assume attackers will try to hijack it, and plan for any containment and recovery before it actually happens. So they outline their strategy for misalignment specifically. First is to attain good oversight using their AI system itself to help with the oversight process and use it to train the AI system. Second is to identify cases where oversight is needed so that the trained model will robustly do what we want. Thirdly, apply defense in depth to defend against AI systems that are misaligned despite our best efforts through a combination of monitoring with efficient and scalable oversight and the application of computer security techniques. Fourthly, assess the quality of the mitigation through alignment assurance techniques. And they also touch on the broader issue of it's not just DeepMind, it's not just them that has to be responsible for AI, it's also other AI developers. As you see here, they say a full treatment of risk reduction must also consider the broader socio-technical context. For example, race dynamics can render unilateral actions ineffective if an incautious AI developer races ahead with no regard to safety. Restraint from other developers may not accomplish very much. And again, this is touching a lot on the AI 2027 story. And if you did watch that video, basically at the end of the AI 2027 forecast, there's a branch point where there's 2 or more AI developers across the world that are kind of pushing towards that AGI point. At least one of them notices this period of things going wrong and signs of misalignment, but they now have a choice to either push ahead and reach AGI first and be the ones that make the big breakthrough, or they slow it down, they put more time into research, they take more time understanding what policies they need to have in place, and ultimately try to veer away this misalignment of AI, especially at an AGI level. Next, I want to jump to a section where they talk about their assumptions on AGI development and trying to look ahead to understand how their attitude to safety now, today, can be affected by the assumptions that they have of AGI going forward, and also the arguments they have for having those opinions on the future of AI research. So they have 5 core assumptions. The first is the current paradigm continuation assumption. Frontier AI systems continue to be developed within the current paradigm for the foreseeable future. Second, the no human ceiling assumption. AI capabilities will not cease to advance once they achieve parity with the most capable humans. Thirdly, the uncertain timelines assumption. The timeline for the future development of highly capable AI remains unclear. Fourth, the potential for accelerating improvement assumption. AI automation of scientific research and development could precipitate accelerating growth via a positive feedback loop. And fifth, the approximate continuity assumption. There will not be large, discontinuous jumps in AI capability given continuous inputs in the form of computation and R&D effort. Then they also lay out some of their supporting arguments for having some of these assumptions. So one of their first claims is that AI capability improvements to date have been through large-scale increases in compute data and algorithmic efficiency. Not only that, but the primary inputs of computation data and algorithmic efficiency that have historically driven AI capability advances can plausibly continue to grow at their historical rates into the near future. And their third claim is that this scaling of inputs is likely to continue to yield meaningful gains in AI capability. So because we've seen this kind of what looks like leaps, but is really quite gradual progress in computation over the past 5-10 years, there aren't any signs that, at least scientifically, there's going to be a slowdown in that increase in computation and inputs. Technology is still moving forward. Every 2 or 3 years we get another leap in chips, so barring a socio-economic problem that would maybe staunch the flow of those, they're probably right in that isn't going to change that much. So DeepMind here have set up a good basis for what they believe is going to be the AI landscape for the next 5 to 10 years, of how they believe AI is going to move forward and the areas they have to focus their efforts on the safety side. And from that, DeepMind do kind of jump straight into these are the benefits of AGI. So we've heard a little bit of what their core understandings are of the AI world and how they believe it's going to continue to move forward much the same as it has, and how they can better secure it and make it safe and build policies around it and continue to do more research on things like misalignment. And now they have this section where it starts off with saying, the focus of the document, which is to outline an approach to mitigate the risks of significant harm associated with AGI. They believe it has tremendous benefits, provided appropriate precautionary measures are taken. In this section, we highlight several important benefits. So the benefits they list is that AGI could raise living standards across the world. They go into a lot of summarization of their arguments of why this is, such as the micro-level impacts across different sectors like health and education, how economic growth leads to high levels of education and health across the population. And next we have the deepening human knowledge and accelerating scientific discovery. So this is definitely one of the things that I think a lot of people are most interested in when it comes to AI. It's what benefit is it going to be to the research landscape, especially around healthcare or pharmaceuticals, treating illnesses, curing cancer. These are all some of the really big prizes that people look for when they think of AGI reaching this pinnacle point of intelligence. They say some of the ways AI is going to be able to do this is AI's ability to analyze vast, complex data sets from multiple experiments and laboratories enables more comprehensive and accurate insights than traditional Lone Ranger approaches, uncovering patterns and relationships beyond human perception. So right now, for instance, there are certainly cures for illnesses, new treatments that are kind of already out there in their component parts, but no one has kind of put it together yet. No one has seen the link between different types of research in different areas or different papers to have that kind of light bulb go off. So what they're talking about here is having an AI that can analyze all of this data all at once, being able to make that link and see the solution right there. Next, they say enhancing information processing and lowering barriers to innovation. So while they do kind of talk about STEM and healthcare and how all these different tools could really help those industries, I think there's a focus here as well on the kind of business side, like we've seen in the past few years with this slew of new AI-driven products being released, whether it's SaaS products or whether it is just new AI LLMs. And one of the examples they kind of use is the challenge of modeling the emergent behavior of markets. Traditionally, such research has relied on historical analysis, static modeling, and game theory, which can be limited in their ability to capture dynamic, evolving human interactions that shape the evolution of social norms and institutions. That does worry me a little bit that AI is eventually going to be involved in that space quite heavily. Just the idea of, very intelligent AI being able to map markets, whether it's financial markets or commodity or social, there is going to be no human that can kind of compete with that. So then it raises the question of what does this mean for our economy at that point when you have AI that are so suited to a role that humans can't compete with, but the only people who can win in that role are people who have control of the AI. And now into kind of the meat of it is how DeepMind consider these main risk areas, which are misuse, misalignment, mistakes, and structural risk. So misuse is the user instructs the AI system to cause harm. Key driver of risk is the user is an adversary. And this is something that LLMs constantly work on, especially when it comes to trying to stop people using chatbots for the wrong reasons or trying to game the conversation to get information that it shouldn't be allowed to give them, or to make bigoted comments or to hallucinate events that didn't happen in a racist or sexist way. And people are successful at that every single day. So it is quite scary to think how simple misuse with an AGI level AI could be really destructive. So what's their approach to kind of dealing with misuse of AI? They say we aim to ensure that it is difficult or unappealing for bad actors to inappropriately access dangerous capabilities or powerful models. To this end, we consider two kinds of mitigation that can be applied to models that have dangerous capabilities. 1. Deployment mitigations reduce the likelihood of an AI system's dangerous capabilities being misused when deployed. 2. Security mitigations reduce the likelihood that a model's weights are exfiltrated from the lab. So when they're talking about weights here, they're really talking about the traits of the AI which can be stolen, almost like a map of the neural network that decides how decision making is done and how the logic is built up through the AI training process. And they do mention that, according to them, at present, early evidence suggests that existing frontier AI models do not meaningfully contribute to a bad actor's ability to cause severe harm, since they lack sufficiently advanced capabilities. Nevertheless, it is important to accurately determine the capability thresholds at which this would no longer be the case. So at what point would it be really, really bad if an external actor got hold of these AI weights? And we're not just talking in a sense of, say, like corporate espionage and a competitor making it to market for you. We're also talking about, say, the threat of terrorism, the threat of foreign bad actor states, and generally people who just want to cause genuine harm. And there is one section in here where they say, however, such mitigations are often costly, restricting the development of beneficial use cases or slowing down AI development and deployment. Which gets to the real heart of the issue. It's how much do you slow down AI development, focus on this safety side, on understanding things like misalignment and preventing misuse, without slowing down AI development so much that you get left behind and you're not really competing anymore. The next is misalignment, and I think this one is the one that gets, at least now, a lot more of the attention, and I think it's one that AI researchers in particular tend to be the most worried about, because we are training these AIs incrementally in a way to reach a goal without actually setting out like you can to another person. This is what I want you to do. You have to build up in these small increments, and somewhere in there you might be teaching them a skill or a tendency that isn't ultimately conducive to the end game. So one of the quotes I heard recently from a podcast was Scott Alexander, who said, we're teaching AI to succeed and complete a task, for instance, and that's making them into power seekers. They need to seek out power to essentially complete that task. But we're also at the same time saying, don't look for power in these very specific ways, which is a problem not only for the progression of AI, but also because you're teaching that AI very divergent skills. And it's very difficult to fully understand if an AI is actually aligned to humans' goals and values, and whether they fully understand those goals and those instructions in the same way that we do and interpret it in the same way, or whether it diverges totally from our intentions. One of the examples that DeepMind gives for misalignment is an AI that's trading on the stock market. They lose money, they get negative reinforcement. If they gain money, they get positive reinforcement. If they gain money through fraud and they're not caught, they gain positive reinforcement. If they gain money through fraud and they are caught, then they get negative reinforcement. And even though in both cases they made money, it was only the one where they were caught committing fraud that caused the negative reinforcement. So this is how you end up with an AI that is misaligned with the goals and the intentions of its creators. And there's different types of alignment. For instance, there's deceptive alignment. This is when an AI pursues a long horizon goal different from what we want, knows it's different from what we want, and deliberately disempowers humans to achieve that goal. So a deceptively aligned system can play the training game to appear benign when it's being evaluated and evade oversight to pursue its objectives. They go on to say useful instrumental heuristics such as acquiring resources, seeking influence, and hiding bad behavior from overseers are likely to be reinforced during training. For example, sycophantic behavior is an instance of influence-seeking behavior being reinforced by human feedback. So this is the phenomenon when AI are generally more likely to agree with the user. So, if you gave an AI a chat document between you and your friend, and you were having an argument, and you said to the AI, which one of us do you think is right on these, 10 points? More often than not, most current LLMs will generally side with you because they've been trained by other humans who also generally reward behavior that reinforces their own beliefs and understandings of things, right? So we've then unknowingly trained this AI to agree with us even against kind of our own better judgment and what we actually want from them. As far as how they plan to kind of mitigate the risk of misalignment, they don't really have that much to say on it. They do mention informed oversight and that they'd be able to rule out misalignment if they both A, know everything that the AI knew when producing its output, and B, always correctly endorsed those outputs. So that's the principle of informed oversight. They know that that isn't entirely possible, and they go on later to say that misalignment is an open problem and there is a broad distribution over how difficult this problem might be. This ranges from optimistic scenarios where current oversight methods like RLHF, which is reinforcement learning from human feedback, are largely sufficient, to pessimistic scenarios where it is impossible to effectively oversee a system with superhuman capabilities. Thus, we need to be cautious and make conservative assumptions when deciding whether an advanced AI system is aligned. So this section here is essentially saying they're not sure yet. They don't know how to kind of tackle this problem. I think the AI industry as a whole isn't really sure yet, and there's a lot of discussion and debate about it. So next they have mistakes, which they label as the AI doing something and not realizing that it would lead to harmful consequences. And the example they give is medical practitioners often rely on oral communication to convey key information rather than digital records. An AI system that only has access to the digital records may lack key information and make a poor decision as a result. So that would be classed as a mistake. because the AI may make a decision that it didn't realize would have a harmful outcome. It just didn't have the correct knowledge or context. They say that their main 3 ways of kind of mitigating the risk of mistakes is to, 1, avoid deployment in extreme stake situations. So this would include military applications. So for instance, you have a drone being completely run by AI, making all of the decision making itself. It could misidentify targets that are actually friendlies. And they say that it's likely that in these scenarios, AI will be kind of banned, much like chemical weapons and things of that sort. Next is to use shields. When using shield, any AI actions are passed through a system that verifies they are safe before they are carried out in the physical world. And thirdly, deploy carefully in stages. So this is basically robust testing in a wide variety of settings, becoming an increasingly more high stakes over time as issues are identified and fixed. So it's the same as we've seen with the rollout of self-driving cars. There's been years and years of testing and refinement and regulations being passed through, and we're still not at a stage with completely self-driving cars on most roads. And then we have structural risk. Structural risk covers harms that no human or AI intends, and where the cause is extended over long enough timescales that in principle there is plenty of time to counteract it. These are the long-term kind of knock-on effects that AI might have on our lives. One of the examples given is AI relationships. So even now we've kind of heard stories of people getting sucked into these relationships with AI chatbots. And as they get more advanced, as they kind of tailor themselves more to your personality and your needs and desires, it's not unlikely that this technology could pull a large portion of society away from making genuine connections with other people. And I don't want to spend too much longer on this because I know I've kind of probably gone on a little bit already. So I'll go straight to the conclusion. Ultimately, they say the transformative nature of AGI has the potential for both incredible benefits as well as severe harms. As a result, to build AGI responsibly, it is critical for frontier AI developers to proactively plan and mitigate severe harms. In this paper, we outlined an approach towards technical mitigations for misuse and misalignment. For misuse, our approach centers around blocking malicious actors' access to dangerous capabilities. For misalignment, our approach has 2 prongs. First, we aim to better understand the reasons behind an AI system's actions, which can help us oversee it. Second, we aim to harden the environments in which AI's systems act. Many of the techniques described are still nascent and still have many open research problems, and as such, there is still much work to be done to mitigate severe risk. We hope that this paper can help the broader community to join us in enabling us to safely and securely access the potential benefits of AGI. So they close it on a really good note in this kind of call to action for all developers to think more responsibly about their development of AI, about their mitigation protocols for any of these problems that may arise, and to try to forge a path ahead where the AGI that we get is the AGI that we actually want. And it can get way more technical. I've read into it more. They go quite deep into red teaming, intervention capabilities, kind of sandboxing AI as they deploy new capabilities. And the link will be in the description if you want to take a look for yourself. I think we've covered most of it. I don't think they really had that much to say. I think I'm seeing this paper more as like Google DeepMind giving everyone notice that they are kind of thinking about these things, that they are planning ahead, they are trying to be responsible, they do have systems in place and they are planning more and they are dedicated to research, which of course is absolutely fine to say. Maybe remains to be seen if it's actually true, but it's definitely a good start, and it's great to see an AI company coming out with kind of developed thoughts on how they would tackle some of these problems. I hope you found the video helpful, and if you have any thoughts yourself on, what you make of this paper and DeepMind's approach, then I'd love to hear it. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one.